President Joe Biden's touchdown here in Western Washington. Air Force One landed at SeaTac Airport just a short time ago. This is President Biden's first trip to the Northwest since he took office.
We have team coverage for you tonight on his arrival and plans while in Seattle, the traffic impact for drivers, and the policy changes he is expected to announce. Good evening. I'm Greg Copeland.
I'm Joyce Taylor. So we start our team coverage with Shantae Sumter. It's been a bit of a roller coaster hour since the president landed for traffic, Shantae.
Well, yes, Joyce and Greg, definitely a roller coaster. It seems like we're starting to get off that ride, but don't get too comfortable. For those of you traveling out in downtown Seattle, expect closures near the West End on 5th Avenue. That's where the president is expected to stay. So between Lenore Street, Olive Way, and Westlake Way on 5th Avenue, we're still dealing with closures there. Also portions of Denny Way, 4th Avenue, Virginia, and Pine Streets in that area. So if you usually travel through downtown Seattle, that's something to watch out for. At one point, parts of I-5 and I-90 were closed. Here's a look out on I-5 now. Things are moving smoothly, but you're still dealing with that congestion if you're going northbound. We're also dealing with some congestion out on I-90 now that things have reopened. So we know that the president had a fundraiser scheduled for 6:30. So I imagine we'll start to see some closures happen again at some point this evening. So keep an eye on that. Highway 99, always the best option. And if you're taking public transit, Sound Transit and King County Metro announced some closures and reroutes that will go on until 4 p.m. tomorrow. So go ahead and check those rider alerts as well.
Okay, Shantae, thank you. The president's arrival in Seattle comes ahead of Earth Day tomorrow. His administration says he will make a major announcement here on climate change.
Chris Daniels joining us now from downtown where the president's going to be staying. So, Chris, what else is the president expected to say?
Well, Joyce, we know that the president spoke about infrastructure down in Portland after landing here at SeaTac. He is wrapping up a fundraiser near Lake Washington before he will come here to downtown Seattle to overnight before he speaks on two different issues at two different locations in Western Washington tomorrow. It doesn't matter who the president may be, these kinds of visits are usually well scripted, and this one will be no different. White House Deputy Press Secretary Chris Marr.
On Earth Day, we're going to be highlighting the progress we've made in terms of battling climate change.
Multiple sources say that morning event at Seattle Seward Park will involve an executive order. The Washington Post reports Biden will sign an order directing the federal government to catalog and protect mature trees and those at risk from wildfires and climate change, before heading to Green River College in Auburn for another announcement.
Prescription drug costs is one of the big areas where people pay the most out of pocket each and every day. We're talking about lowering the cost of childcare and elder care and health care.
Are you concerned at all that the president's message will be blunted tomorrow by the fact that most Americans right now care about the economy, inflation, and gas prices?
No, look it. We care about gas prices. Frankly, we Democrats hate gas prices so much, we want to eliminate the price of gas. We don't want to decrease it by a nickel or a lousy dime. We want it to go to zero.
Washington Governor Jay Inslee today. There's going to be a lot of people, though, that are going to be forced to idle their gas tanks tomorrow because they're going to be stuck in traffic, not only tonight, but into tomorrow. To those people that are going to be sitting in traffic because the president's moving around, what do you say to them?
I'd say that it's a price we pay for a bright future for our kids.
I want that relationship between the White House and the federal resources right here in Seattle.
Seattle's mayor says he believes these presidential trips are about more than just the short visit.
It could be a small price to pay, as the governor said, for the enormous benefits we could have with our partnership with the federal government. And we're not, when we build these relationships with the White House, we just don't ask for climate change dollars. We ask for infrastructure dollars. We ask for dollars in education. We ask for dollars to help our economy. And so these relationships are critical.
And late tonight, the White House has now confirmed that event at Seward Park tomorrow. Green River College's president says that the tickets have been handed out for that event, and that was only to invited guests only. She also issued a statement reading in part tonight that as a college, we do not endorse a specific campaign or political agenda. That's the story live tonight in a gridlock downtown Seattle. I'm Chris Daniels, King 5 News.
Well, security, of course, is tight for the president's visit. He's going to be staying overnight in downtown Seattle.
King 5's Erica Zuko is also live outside the West End. And Erica, what are you seeing from your vantage point tonight?
Well, Greg and Joyce, over the past hour, we've seen traffic decrease in the area, but we've seen crowds increase even with the rain. There are a good number of people who are gathered here hoping to potentially catch a glimpse of the president. A lot of people not even knowing necessarily if they will be able to catch that. But we do see a large crowd that's gathered under some of the awnings. And then we also see Secret Service set up. They have several checkpoints in the area. And we're over near 5th and 6th along Stewart Road. And we can see both a good amount of people and a good amount of law enforcement officers. We've seen Seattle Police Department on scene, as well as WSP. And WSP, as you mentioned, of course, said for people to be careful on the roads on I-5, mentioning that traffic and saying that there would be more congestion. But here downtown, the main focus is just making sure that everything is safe here near the Westin. We can expect these blockades to be here throughout tonight and into tomorrow. So you'll want to avoid the area if you're trying to drive. There's really no parking available downtown. However, we can say a lot of people who are here just kind of watching to see what happens next. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you. So we were live as President touched down at SeaTac Airport. It was a quick trip from Portland. We counted about 26 minutes. As he arrived, he was greeted by a small group of dignitaries there on the tarmac. Governor Jay Inslee and his wife Trudy, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, his wife Joanne, and SeaTac Mayor Jake Simpson and his wife Jessica. This is not the first presidential visit for the Emerald City. Sebastian Robertson takes a look back.
President Biden's trip to the Northwest marks the first of his presidency, but follows a long list of politicians, both domestic and foreign, who've toured the evergreen state.
We are going to win so much more than anybody ever.
Back in 2016, then candidate Trump drew a crowd in Lyndon, Washington, and in doing so became the first major party nominee to visit the small town just a mile from the Canadian border. President Obama has made several stops to Seattle over the years. Here he is in 2011, greeting then Mayor Mike McGinn and then Governor Christine Gregoire. And it's not just U.S. politicians making headlines. In September of 2015, Chinese President Xi Jinping drew protesters and caused traffic delays during a rare visit stateside centered around U.S.-China business relations. You'll have to go back nearly a century and a half to mark the first visit of a president to Washington state. That's when Rutherford B. Hayes, the nation's 19th president, arrived via steamship. The year, 1880.
Earlier today, the president was in Portland. In a speech at the airport, he talked about his $1 trillion infrastructure package, which is set to provide billions of federal dollars to both Washington and Oregon. He also talked about inflation in the U.S. and his administration's efforts to bring down costs for American families.
I've called on Congress to move immediately to lower the cost of families' utility bills, prescription drug costs, while lowering the deficit and reducing inflationary pressures.
The president also touched on climate change and how it's leading to extreme heat, more destructive wildfires, and severe flooding here in the Northwest.
Many Republicans are critical of the president's messaging during his trip to the Northwest. Earlier today, we spoke with Republican National Committee spokesperson Paris Dennard, who says the president should be focused on the economy.
But at the end of the day, there are more pressing issues that are concerning voters right now. What is Joe Biden and the Democrats doing right now to address inflation, right now to address crime, right now to address rising gas prices, right now to address the fentanyl crisis that we see because of the open border policies? That's on top of mind for voters in Seattle. That's top of mind for voters all over the state of Washington.
Stay with King 5 for continuing coverage of President Biden's visit here to Western Washington. We will monitor his events tonight. We will bring you the latest throughout the day tomorrow. Also, remember, the latest developments are always online at king5.com.